Hey guys, welcome back to part 4 of the 6.86 analysis. I've lost both Tsunami as well as Physics Math Man, but I've gained Mr. Big Deal himself, Aosin Dota. What's up, man?
How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. You said that you haven't played too much of this patch. Well, I don't think a lot of us have. I only played like 2 or 3 games of the test client, so, you know.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you played more than I was watching you playing that shit.
Alright, so I don't think... Wait, do you think the Medusa changes or anything big?
I don't think it's too big of a deal. Like, it doesn't increase per jump, but it's like just a flat rate now. I'm not sure if this is an increase or not, but I think it's still the same or close to the same as before from when you leech from the range creep.
Well, let's say 15% of an average mana pool at what, level 5 is what, 400-ish? Would you say that's fair? So you steal 45 mana? That's actually not that much.
I mean, it's much crazier late game, I guess.
Yeah, so you can't really like spam Serpent Snakes early. Although, honestly, I don't ever feel like I was constricted from mana to spam Mystic Snake early anyways, because you generally get things like Aquila and stuff, right?
Yeah, but now it's a percentage, so like, what does the range creep have again? Is it 500 or 600? I can't remember.
Isn't it 300?
400. Range creep? No, it must be more than that. Because I remember playing when you play as Lion, you can get
Oh yeah, true.
almost like 500 or something. It's gotta be at least 500 or something. So
Alright.
it's like 20%. That's 100 mana. It's actually, now that I think about it, this is actually a lot. Is it a lot less? It's actually a lot less.
It's a lot less. It's definitely a lot less. But again, like I said earlier, you don't generally feel like you're running out of mana, but is that because Mystic Snake used to be so much better?
Yeah, I actually think that's the case. I think the only way you won't feel the pressure for mana now is that if you have to actually Mystic Snake the range creep and a hero to get a decent amount back in the early phase.
But the jump range is still very good, right?
I mean, nothing's changed, so, I mean, laning should be... you can't spam it as hard, and it's probably going to take, like, more careful aim. But actually, you know what? Wait, what am I talking about? Oh, wait, this is the big thing. Okay, so it says that it no longer increases mana skill per jump.
Damage still increase.
The damage doesn't increase, but the mana skill doesn't change. So, I mean, if you want to retain your mana, you can actually just target the hero. So.
Or the range creep first, and then have it bounce to the hero, you know? You could control it.
Yeah. So that's like a very minor difference, I guess.
But late
the
game...
harass won't be as strong, so... The late game is pretty crazy, though. 20% of total mana.
And it's, you know, feeling back to your mana shield as well. I feel like
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of times people just almost forget to use Mystic Stick in late games, and now you can't really do that anymore.
Yeah, so this is actually like... I would actually consider it a early game nerf, but Medusa was never really like known as an early hero anyway, so this really caters to her late game strength. So
Yeah, I think a lot of times when you pick Medusa, you give her a lane that's fairly well protected to begin with, so it's...
yeah, exactly. So now I mean, this 20% mana thing, it's like... It's almost like a huge lifesteal late game as a spell.
Yeah, pretty sick. Alright, Meepo. Don't need to talk about it, double damage.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Okay, Mirana. Okay, so... now you could instantly kill a creep, a non-ancient creep with arrow. And you got a little bit of range increase on your attack as well as Starstorm. Now there is a video on Reddit that you could now ancient Mirana. Seems really retarded. Actually was not so bad when I looked at the video, but still pretty retarded.
I mean, it's one of those Quelling Blade, keep attacking kind of things, right?
No, you lip onto that new cliff on the Radiant Ancients.
Okay.
And then you will farm the camp that's next to it with arrows while you're doing it.
I see. I mean, that kind of thing, I think it's kind of irrelevant. I feel like this change for Mirana really makes her a decent support now, because you can constantly move from lane to lane. You just shoot arrows. If it doesn't go your way, then you pick up creeps along the way. You won't get completely starved. Whereas before, if you miss your arrows, like, you're done for. You'll
But
be like level 1 for 6 minutes or something like that, you know?
so I did try playing a support Mirana just the way that you just mentioned now. I feel like I was starved when I wasn't hitting my arrows, because your mana pool is just like really tiny. Like when you miss the arrow, you generally like go for another arrow, and you're just out of mana pool like after two. So I feel like yes, it helps out that situation a little bit, but you're still pretty much make or break. Because when I do hit the arrows, it's like oh, it's all good. And when you do hit the arrow, this sacred arrow now instantly killing the first unit, like it's a non-factor for me. Sure, maybe late game I was farming with Star Storm and I killed the siege unit very quickly with my arrow as well. It's just like I don't know. I don't think it really added a lot for me.
Well, you have to see it this way. Wait, let me go take a look. I forgot what the cooldown for arrow is. Do you remember? It's like, is it 18 or is it longer than that? Wait,
I could look it up right now.
I'm looking it up right now. It's fine. Okay, so it's 17 seconds. So you actually have to see it this way now. So it's like you say that you're gonna have mana problems, right? It's 100 mana, but you have to think about it like this: you kill a creep for 100 mana, but with the new clarity changes and the way you play Mirana, you don't ever have to worry about having to have your clarity cancel, and the clarity pretty much gives you 2 arrows again, and it's only for 50 gold. You could start the game with all the support items and come out with 6 clarities or something like that, and you'll never run out.
So are you suggesting just shooting arrows and don't even care if you miss and you just shoot another random arrow into the neutrals once in a while?
Exactly. That's honestly how I see you should be playing Mirana as a support in the early game.
You know what's
Because,
you know what's a sick technique?
yeah?
You shoot the arrow to stack the camp while sniping the big one at the same time.
Wait, what do you mean? How does that work?
No, your
So you
arrow.
you kill and then stack at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you go back to like shooting arrows to mid or whatever.
yeah, that's normal. I mean, if you put it that way, you might as well stack 2 camps. You can shoot at another camp.
Damn.
And then stack another camp, like from the radiant one. You know. You can
Damn.
stand from the uphill.
There you go. You freaking solved it.
So like, you know, there's a lot of efficiency that can be done with Mirana. Like, you have this annoying ass presence in the early game, and you can also, you know, provide to your carries and stuff like that by stacking and also getting something for yourself too. Because you kill one big creep, right? That's 1 ward already, you know. So.
I mean, there.
Your presence.
There's also a lot of like random stuff, like you could arrow a Necrobook or a Chen creep in the mid game and just get it instantly killed. It's just like a ton of small things that's added to this particular one line.
That's true. Yeah, that's really true.
How
That's
much?
actually really good.
How much? Like, would you only pick this if you have a good Mirana player? It just comes down to that, right?
I don't know, actually. I actually don't think so. I don't think you have to be that good of a Mirana player for this to work. I think it's actually pretty viable.
All right, I'm not sold, but okay.
Because I feel like the way I feel like you should be playing it now is that because of this arrow change, I don't think you go that all-in arrow build anymore. So like back then when people played like support Mirana, right? They would go almost everything into arrow because if you hit the arrow, then you know you've done your job, right? So you want to do as much damage as you can. But now it's like, since it one-shots creeps, right? You just need it to one-shot creeps, and if you hit the arrow, great, right? Does it stun?
I won 3-1-1 yesterday. I think that was the build.
I think you can get more into Starstorm now, and because of that, you can, you know, do more, like whether it's farming or, you know, having more nuke or whatever like that.
All right, cool. Adaptive Strike getting a lot of changes. I'm not a Morphling player, so you take this one.
Okay, so base damage. This is a pretty good buff because the problem with Adaptive Strike before was that it was so weak in the early game. Like, it was super useless in the early game. It wasn't good until late game. As far as carry goes, right?
Right.
If your offlane morph is a little different because you just want it for the stun. But now since it's 100 damage, right? It's definitely, you're gonna see differences in skill builds because it's worth getting a value point because it's 100 damage, right? And if the base damage is 100, I think you can actually start doing support morphling too now because that's 100 damage nuke at 1 level, which is actually pretty good, right? And it also has what is the stun at level 1? If you just buy like strength items, I can't remember what it is, but basically you're looking at I don't know, maybe like 300 damage coming out of Morph at level 2. If you could get in a couple right clicks, waveform, and an adaptive strike. And it's 100 mana. It's kind of expensive, but it scales down now. And the Morph rate, I don't know how I feel about the Morph rate. It's like it's more of a, this is actually a tough one. 6 is a lot. 16 is like really a lot. It's already hard to kill Morphling. Now it's even harder to kill him. So
yeah, it feels like all of these buff doesn't funnel you into one direction of playing Morphling, which is what I like about the best. Like you could go carry Morph or support Morph to really get benefits from all of this.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, it like affects. It's definitely a buff for Morphling, like no doubt. Like it's, and by that I mean like it's good no matter what position you play him in, whether it's the offlane Morph or the carry Morph or support Morph. I think because of that it makes it like viable or even more viable to run like offlane and support now. So.
By the way, earlier you asked how much does level 1 adaptive strike stun. It's 1.25 if you get the max strength.
Like if you're strength, right? Yeah. So I mean that's actually really good, right? That's because that's
1 second
that would
stun.
make adaptive strike stronger than, like, let's say for example avenge stun. You know. So.
Yeah, but I guess the thing about all of these buff that you talked about Morphling, it's not like Bane getting that early game dominance kind of buff. It's good, but it's not like game breaking, right? So I don't.
It's definitely not game breaking. I mean, you'll have to see though. If anything, this is probably a hero that's going to come down to whether or not a player can play it. It's gonna be one of those like player specialties kind of thing. I feel.
Okay, fair enough. By the way, if you see any hero that's good for like Aether Lens candidate, just throw it out. I'm not sure if Morphling.
It's pretty good.
For support, for the strength one, right? The Aether
Yeah,
Lens,
for the strength one. Yeah, further adaptive strike, further waveform, and to some extent the further
replicate.
yeah. I mean, you could if you need to make a further one, whatever. You might need it.
All right, Naga. I guess this really buffs only the support Naga. Early on.
I mean, it buffs her in all ways because
Sure.
I mean, higher mana pool just means better sustain for farming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Not too big of a deal though.
Yeah. Okay. Nature's Prophet getting a little bit of buff here and there. Is the 4 base damage or 4 base intelligence thus the 4 base damage as well? That seems like a pretty big deal, right, for really top-notch MP players.
I don't think it's too big of a deal. I think it makes it so that you can get out more treants and stuff like that. Probably like an extra set.
What about the laning in the off-lane situation, like trading hits?
I mean, if you're talking about a 1v1 situation, that's pretty decent. Because not only did you get 4 intelligence, you also get the 4 extra damage from treants.
Yeah.
When you're playing a 1v1 lane, like 4 extra damage from both sides, that's like quite a lot. So, I mean, if you're laning, it's probably not going to change too much if you're against like heavy opposition, but if it's, you know, like a 1v1 matchup or something like that, it's actually pretty big.
All right. Standard patch where you have somebody gets one more armor, Necro.
That hero's broken now.
Literally unkillable.
The 1 armor, unkillable.
He actually needs that 1 armor, I feel like, because he's actually pretty squishy early on.
It's, yeah, I mean, probably not too big of a deal, but definitely, you know, pretty big for him, because what does he start with? Like 1 armor? I can't remember.
It's pretty low. It will surprise me if we look it up and it's like, 10.
No, there's no way. It's like 1 armor or something like that. I'm
looking it up now. But we can move on and talk about Night Stalker. So I feel like this change, the support variant of Night Stalker just got a whole lot weaker. You can't just run in first night with like level 3 and just punch people really hard.
I don't think it's that bad. I mean, if you think about like the average timing for the first night as a support, you say, like, you're gonna have level 2 Void already, so it's gonna be like a 1 second nerf, you know?
Okay.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Alright. Well, I'm happy that he's gonna get picked less, because I think him being in the game, like, reduces a lot of other hero choices, like the more jungling choices. And I feel like this patch is more jungle oriented.
I think people will still pick him. The thing about him is just, you know, if you pick him for that scepter effect.
Yeah.
So,
Although actually nowadays, at least a CIS Night Stalker has been going Vlad's first instead of Scepter first.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they've been grouping up to do like more pushes, and when he's disappearing off the map, he's not useless. Like he can actually keep up and farm in the jungle. So
This is true. Yeah, this is actually really true. Yeah, I can understand that. Because I mean, it makes it so that your downtime on your way to 16, like daytimes and stuff like that.
it's not useless.
You can actually do stuff.
Okay, Nyx Assassin getting a couple of changes. Impale getting better, Spike getting a little bit better. I don't know, I feel like the heroes are really extremely pickable. Especially anytime there's a Darkseer in the game.
Yeah, I feel the same way actually. I think Nyx was in a good position. I would say these are minor buffs. It makes it so that a support Nyx is a little better because the level 1 stun is definitely a lot better. It's like
Right.
0.3-ish, 0.33. But other than that, like it's still gonna be the same hero.
Alright, Ogre Magi, what's the problem with him? He doesn't have enough healing, so you give him more lane regen.
Okay, Ogre was already
Like,
super powerful in lane. Like,
This is
he
not
has
his
such
problem,
armor.
right? This is not his problem.
problem.
Yeah.
He actually has no problem. I think he's a perfectly fine hero.
I think he has a problem. I think his problem is once he transition out the laning phase, he doesn't affect team fights the way that a lot of other supports do. Like your Dazzle or your Wyvern or your, you know.
Yeah, this is true because, you know, he only has Ignite and
Right, he has mostly offensive capabilities.
There's no big skill that he has. But at the same time, like, that's why I think he's fine, because once you get out of the lane phase, your job, you know, you come into a couple fights, whatever, but your main job is to finish your scepter. And once you have a scepter, you're actually super annoying to deal with, because you're super tanky, right? Or the scepter, let's say you have Tranquil, Scepter, and Soul Ring, like, you know, standard ogre items. You'll have like almost 2,000 health and something like 13 armor. You're really, really hard to kill, and because of the Scepter effect, you can spam stuns nonstop. No matter how much money you have, you can always stun.
So we would call this a pointless buff, and more of a hey, I'm still here buff.
I want to call this a pointless buff. I think it actually makes it so that I don't know if you watched one of the Summit games, but VP picked offlane Ogre.
Okay.
So I mean, if that's like an option that comes up every now and then, it makes him, you know, just that much stronger of an offlaner.
Fair enough. Okay, I don't know if you play this hero, but Oracle is now in the CM mode. They change a lot about the Oracle, though. Do you have any experiences with them?
I know what she does to some extent, and they changed everything. So before I start, let me get the skills correct. Fate's Edict is the second skill, right?
Yes, the one that disarms the target and makes them take no
And
magic
makes them
damage.
immune.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Fortune's End is the purge nuke thing.
Yes.
I think this is the most interesting change because you can purge allies now. So I'm not sure if this works. If this is like a weak purge, right? It's not like Abaddon Shield or anything.
No. You don't purge off anything.
Stuns and stuff like that. Okay. So it gets rid of just minor stuff. Okay.
Well, you
And
know,
then
Arc Warden's new spell, like
Okay.
the slow, it will purge that off, I imagine. If Ogre throws a ignite on you, that will probably purge that off too, right? Or it should.
It should. Like
Yeah.
Venogale and stuff like that. That'll probably get removed.
So you weren't here earlier, but Fortune's End purge very relevant when we're talking about Darkseer, because you could purge off Iron Shells. It's an AoE purge,
Ah.
so it's a sick
Okay.
laner against Darkseer, and you used to be able to put the Iron Shell on the enemy creeps, or I guess Oracle's allies creeps, and he can't do anything about it either. But now you could purge off it from ally creeps as well. So you know it just purges everything.
So, okay. So that makes it so that Oracle dual lanes are going to be very, very effective against Darkseer.
Yes, you also purge off Surge, which is the big thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fate's Edict, the big change for this one is that the old Fate's Edict, you could Fate's Edict one of your allies and throw out a whole bunch of the heal or the damage and then the heal onto them. But now the duration being somewhat shorter, You can't heal them as much. Maybe like 2, I think you could heal them now. So that's somewhat of a nerf to the sustain ability of Face Edict plus the whatever the other nuke is called. And the thing is, False Promise no longer continuously purges. I believe it will still purge on the initial cast, but it won't just keep refreshing the purge, which made Huskar a god.
That had to be nerfed. That was way too powerful.
Yeah, it was.
That made it so that you were actually... It was like... It made it so that it was pretty much a grave, right? But not only was it a grave, it made it so that you were immune to all sorts of disables during the buff.
Well, yes or no. Like, Grave guarantees to save you. False Promise, like the name suggests, sometimes, you just die.
Yeah, I mean, but you understand what I mean, though. Like,
Yeah.
you can't do anything about it. You can just do some damage, and then you have to kind of guess whether or not you've done enough damage to kill him after it ends.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of stuff can happen during False Promise. You could do a bunch of damage, and all of a sudden, a mech comes out and heals for God knows how much, 700 something, and it turns out he didn't die.
And the last thing is False Promise got a mana buff, which is actually a pretty big deal. He is extremely, extremely mana intensive as a hero. So much that sometimes I get Arcane and I feel like I still run out of mana. Because I keep forgetting his third spell, but you could farm very efficiently with that spell. And you tend to do so a lot as a support. So, good stuff.
Okay.
Alright, the new OD. Okay, I think this is a very interesting discussion point. Because the old Astro obviously taking away mana. Or sorry, not mana. Intelligence. Giving you in and giving that lane dominance. Now it becomes... It sucks you in and then it just does damage in the AoE. Obviously, it will also combine with your Acceptor ultimate, because you suck everybody in, and then you do a nuke on top of that when they come back out. The nukes don't stack on top of each other.
Yeah, I tested that.
Yeah.
So, because they don't stack, I think the new Scepter is totally worthless. It's not
Because you don't get the in anymore?
You don't get the int anymore, and it doesn't stack the new astral damage. So you're
what if
just putting everyone in, and they just come out with 300 damage taken?
What if they code it such that that one will stack?
Then it's probably worth it.
Now it comes down to how many people you clip, right, when they're next to each other.
Well, I mean, it just makes it so that you just run your standard Darkseer kind of combo kind of stuff.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the role of this hero, because he's no longer a lane dominator. At least I don't think he is.
I don't think he is either. Yeah.
So I was toying with the idea of running him as a support? Question mark. Because you're now.
It's not bad. I mean, you think about it, right? You think of Astral as kind of like playing
Shadow Demon. Yeah.
Right. And you set up for people, and then I would assume you skill Astral and Aura. Maybe 1 level of Orb. I'm not sure how I would skill those. Maybe like 2/2, and then get 1 level at 5 for Orb, and then max Aura next, maybe. And then just keep maxing out your Astral and Prison, and then everything else.
Yeah, I also don't think you could sustain Arcane Orb spam early on to harass, like a Silencer would be able to with Glaives. So...
I mean, you definitely can. If you're playing a support, there's no way you can. Because the only way you can sustain is if you have...
The aura
you have to have the aura at level 4.
Yeah.
That's the only way.
With that said, though, we are looking at really impressive like burst damage. If you use the Astro offensively, like you Astro into like a Lina, right? Yeah. Or Astro into a Torrent or something, like that's pretty good.
Yeah, the burst is definitely there, and that's why I think it's worth getting the value point in Arcane Orb too. Because I mean, if you're just support, right, it's not like you need to keep a high. You don't need a high sustain or anything. You're just going for ganks anyways, right? So you just get like 1 point, and all of a sudden, Astral Imprisonment plus 2 to 3 orbs, and you do like 300, 400 damage. It's actually not bad.
Dude, you can Mango before your orb and do more damage, dude.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
Actually, can you Soul Ring and do that?
Yeah, why not?
Damn. All right, the place. All right, PA gets a in buff, cool. Phoenix getting some buff. I don't think it's relevant. Let's talk about Puck, because I think he's actually really good now.
All right, let's take a look at this. I saw this, but I cannot remember.
All right, so the mana cost at level 1 is 80. That's really low. Like, you could spam like, 4 or 5 of these.
The shit out of that. Yeah.
And then the cooldown will also get better as well. And then Rainy Rift now no longer silence heroes only, meaning you could silence like a bear, or Necrobooks, or Centaur Stomps. You know, not relevant.
I don't think that's too relevant. I mean, it'll definitely come into play eventually, but not too relevant.
Sometime, yeah. Okay, let's talk about Illusionary Orb. Or Illusory Orb.
So the thing about this is that these buffs, they're really, I feel like they're really trying to make Puck like a mid offlane hero only. I don't think there's any way you can still run this as a support.
What, was he ever a viable support?
I tried it. It's you gotta snowball it really hard or else he's useless. You gotta get a really fast 6.
Okay, but this just helps the early game, right? So wouldn't it help?
This helps the early game, and well, okay. So here's the bigger picture. When I saw this patch as a whole, right, is that because of the added camps and the change in terrain, this game is going to become a very, very heavy fight oriented game. Like there's not going to be any more passive play because you have to control as much as you can, right? So there's going to be a lot of early fights. So these kind of changes are catered towards that, right?
And Puck is it's great.
And Puck is really good early game, yeah. So
and Ogre.
Yeah, and Ogre, exactly. So all these like little changes that don't look like much, they all cater to the early game, and we'll have to see how it plays out. But I think like a lot of these heroes have the potential to be top tier again, just because of these early game changes.
Well,
like, Puck's still the same hero, but
I wouldn't say he is the same hero. The level 1 nuke you could fire off 2.
Yeah. But
now for the cost of the 1, originally.
Yeah.
That's a huge change. How?
No, but it's like it still comes down to just laning, because when you hit level 7, for example, right? You're still gonna be a Puck, right? And I feel like this change alone, unless you would only have to play him mid. I don't think it would make too big of a difference in the offlane. I could be wrong. But mid lane is definitely going to be a big thing for Puck. You'll definitely farm a lot easier, you'll harass a lot easier. And with the bottle nerf as well, I don't think I think it's possible that you can harass people to the point where they have to go back to base, where bottle crowing just isn't enough. But other than that, like it's kind of hard to tell. We'll have to see how the current patch like plays out in the early game and stuff like that.
Okay, fair enough. I'm expecting a lot more of Puck because of this change. I feel like I think this is enough of a buff where you could start consider to pick him as a mid dominator, just to spam and nuke hard. But
you have to think about it though, because like if you probably covered Lina already. Oh wait, there's nothing to cover about Lina.
Yeah.
So
Death Prophet was the other mid hero that I thought was gonna come back, but he's not in CM. So
he's not in CM, so it's kind of hard to say anything. But I mean, like Lina was completely untouched, right?
Yeah.
So if you want a lane dominator, right? Why not Lina? Lina is still going to dominate lanes.
Not against Puck.
It's not going to dominate Puck, yeah, because you'll win with phase shift, but I don't know.
Who beats Puck now that OD is gone?
Who beats Puck? I think.
Actually, Kunkka might beat Puck.
I think Quap can still do it. It's
kind of just face
50-50.
Just face.
I mean, that matchup it's like an ancient matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very 50-50. It just comes down to individual skill and stuff like that.
All right, we talked this one maybe to death. Let's talk about the other really, really good fighter early on, Pudge. So, like a lot of the other heroes, this patch, you get a little nice bonus. Dismember now is sort of like the Axe. Now keep in mind the old Axe, it gave you 100% of your strength as damage and then steal. This one at max you only get 30, 40, 50. But try it in game, 30% is a lot early on because you have very, very high strength as Pudge. And of course it heals you as well. Yeah.
I saw this and I actually think that Pudge has potential to be a very, very... I mean, I already thought from the previous patch that Pudge should only be played as either support or offlane.
I absolutely agree.
But now I think he has a lot of potential to be like a really, really good offlane / support.
The only downside for this particular patch about the support pudge is that the pull to the bottom side on the Radiant is no longer viable because the terrain changed. Do you know which pull I'm talking about?
You're talking about the pull to the tier 2 bottom tower, right?
Yes, but now the creep will just walk the other way around because it will just go back to the camp. But
I don't think that's too big of a deal. I don't think that was ever a problem.
well, the reason I'm mentioning that is you could guarantee level 2 and sometimes even 3 just from that one pull alone. And you could
Okay, I see.
you suddenly like it's a lot more dangerous for a pudge walking around the map with that kind of stuff.
But you have to take into consideration the new camps.
Yes. What
Right.
about it?
I'm pretty sure you can side pull on off lane with
Yes, you definitely can.
with your team. Yeah, so I mean that's something to look out for. You have more options now. You might have lost one option, but there's more options now for you to.
And the other
Yeah,
very important option still remains is you could pull mid on the dire side, which you know
you can hook down, right?
yeah hook down, and then you could tangle and pull to the the medium camp. So there's a lot of stuff you could do, and again the reason I'm suggesting this you're doing this blind on the mini map, and suddenly you show up into a lane and start hooking. So and Dismember healing you is just absolutely huge because a lot of times you would like have I have one urn charge left. Do I save it for myself or use it aggressively? You don't have to run into that situation anymore.
I think it's less to do with sustain and just more to do with
Damage
the
output?
potential for like the early game burst.
Yeah, you do a ton of damage as well too.
Yeah, like before it was 75 damage, right? So that you added up after resistances, it's like 200 damage at level 6, right?
Yep.
Now all of a sudden it's 60 plus 30% of your strength. If you hit level 6 and let's say you have an urn
Yep.
and a wand, I'm not too sure how much it comes out to, but it's almost like an extra.
Well, you have rot
50
too.
or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just from Dismember alone, it's like an extra. I would say probably like 50 damage or something like that. It's actually quite a lot.
Okay.
Like all adds up, and you sustain. You just keep going around and stuff like that.
All right. Let's talk about the axe. You think this is the worthy upgrade? 4-second hook.
Oh yeah, for sure, because you think about late game, and if you hook someone, right, that's the sign to go, right, to fight. And I feel like if you're in a strong position to either let's say for high ground, if you have a 4-second hook, you can try to hook someone every 4 seconds, and if they get caught, they're gonna lose towers, right? And vice versa. If you're defending high ground and you have a scepter pudge, you can defend your high ground just by catching someone trying to catch someone every 4 seconds. So I think this is actually a huge thing.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but this is pure damage, right? 360 to 475 pure.
Yes.
Okay, so it's
Has
a
to be.
sizable nuke as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about is this the Aether Lens hero?
I mean,
It gives you magic resist, it gives you mana, it gives you HP regen, and it gives you more range on Dismember as well as hook.
Oh, that's true, huh? I mean, yeah, then definitely. I always forget about the Aether Lens thing. It doesn't click with me just yet, but I mean, if you can increase your hook length, for sure, it's definitely a worthy item.
All right, cool. All right, Pugna getting buff shoulder, great. Queen getting nerfed. Anytime you want to stop me, just let me know.
No, that's
No?
not too big of a deal. The Pugna one it's okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's still Pugna. It's not too big of a deal.
All right, let's talk about Riki, and then we could cut this part and move on to the next part. No longer in Captain's mode, but now, okay, Permanent Invis now has backstab, and the backstab is, I believe, the old backstab, right? No, it's somewhat nerfed.
It's somewhat lower.
Yeah, somewhat lower. And then you don't get the regen anymore because you get the backstab damage. And now,
Damn, that actually kind of hurts.
well, the other thing that is his agility growth got nerfed a bit, and the strength growth also got nerfed a bit. So he's like his skills all look very cool, especially his ultimate. He basically just phase out and just start hitting people.
Yeah, I tested this one. So I actually pretty much, the only thing that's important to note about him is his new ultimate.
Okay.
Everything else is like kind of whatever.
Okay.
It's nothing new about him, right? But his ultimate. Okay, so this is the interesting one, because I tested this out. It works with
Do you test orb effects on it?
I tested orb effects. I tested Battle Fury. It cleaves. There's a lot of potential for this setup, but with his new skill set, he's definitely not position 1 viable in my opinion. His skill set just does not allow him to be a good carry.
Okay.
But I think he actually has the potential to be a very good, like, offlane core or potentially even middle with his new ult.
Here's the thing, though. Correct me if I'm wrong. He attacks. Let's say if you have a level 1 ult, he attacks once when he phases out and once when he phases back in, and then once every second. So with the level 1 ult, you attack what, 3 times or is it 5 times? I want to say 3.
I think it's 3 times.
And
I think it's just 1 attack every 1 second is the easiest way to look at
right.
it.
So basically, the thing is, so getting attack speed item increase wouldn't really help your ult.
Yeah, doesn't do anything.
So do you just get raw damage as an items, or do you think it like?
No, okay. So the thing about the skill is that no matter where people are positioned in your AOE, it's always going to hit them from the back. So
Yes.
getting agi items is still going to be the most favorable because you get the full backstab damage. But because of this,
But your backstab damage is so low. The
I think
amplifier.
It's still high enough. I think a 1 amplifier is still enough to make it worthwhile, but
Okay.
I could be wrong. I think Diffusal is still worth it because of that. Like it applies the mana burn and gives you all the stats you want as a Riki and that kind
Sure.
of stuff.
You could put up Orb Venom on top of that too now.
Yeah, exactly. And the one thing I haven't tried that I probably should have is whether or not Maelstrom works, because if you can.
Yeah, it does work. Well, why wouldn't it
It
work?
does work.
Why wouldn't it work?
Oh, actually, wait. But the problem with that is it can only proc like once every so many times.
Yeah.
In a period of time. Okay, so that's probably not that good. So,
Wait, are you
I mean,
talking about whether you could proc like 2 in the same attack in the same?
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah.
that I'm
I don't
not
know how
sure.
that works because your attack. I mean, you're not exactly right clicking, right? It's kind of a different scenario.
Right.
But I wouldn't expect you to be able to. I think you're probably just proc like once still every however many times you can. I think Diffusal is still probably the way to go, and Scotty, that kind of stuff.
Okay, hear me out. Shifting gear. Imagine him like a Slark, where you use his ultimate to dodge stuff. Where you go in pretty hard, use tricks of the trade to phase out, do more damage, and phase back in. Use Blink Strike to confuse people, things like that. Or is he just not? He's nowhere near Slark when it comes to survivability to play that way.
He's nowhere near Slark. There's no way, because Slark is faster movement speed when he's unseen and regens health and stuff like that. Riki just has, if you consider his ultimate to be that kind of dodging tool or whatever, it's an ult. It's a 70, 90, 80, 70 cooldown just to dodge something. It's not the same.
Okay, so give me a hero that he plays sort of similar to, because I'm having trouble understanding the way that he should be played.
I'm actually not sure. There's no comparison. The way I see it, the way I see him is that he's like just a really good follow-up, I guess. I mean, you still have smokescreen and stuff like that, so he has some utility and that kind of stuff. But I think he's very, very focused. He's like a very ultimate focus hero now. That's how I see him, and he really needs to have setup. So I think if I had to make a comparison, he's probably comparable to any of the heroes you would pick when you want a combo with like Darkseer or Mag.
Interesting.
That's how I see him, at least.
One thing to get out of this is that if you ever get Riki as your ability draft hero, you should pick Permanent Invisibility, because now includes backstab. It's pretty sick spell, right? If you think about it like that.
I wonder how that would work for range heroes.
Or I mean, yeah, imagine like Juggernaut or something with a spell like this. It would be pretty sick. Okay, so that will conclude this portion of the patch. The next one we'll talk about why Sand King's OP with X, the Shadow Fiend X, and the new Silencer. Should be very exciting. Of course, I am joined by the Aosin Dota, right? At Aosin Dota. Is that your Twitter handle?
Yep, that's correct.
He's also known as the Big Deal, for reasons I do not know. But yeah, that's patch analysis number 4. Number 5 will be coming your way. Hope you guys enjoyed it so far, and we will be back.